My story is about Scarborough during the late 1950s and early 1960s. It was a Scarborough at that time that was filled with young families who had just bought their first homes, usually bungalows. Scarborough at that time was unlike how people think of the suburbs today with their car-centricness and isolation. We moved into a yellow brick bungalow in Scarborough in 1959, and we were part of a wave of 30,000 people that was building up around the intersection of Markham and Lawrence. And that intersection at the time was written up in the newspapers as being one of the densest and fastest growing suburbs in all of Metro Toronto. It went from being in the late 1950s, from being rural farmland to having two shopping centers, one on each corner, and then a brand new high school built to support the community. It was considered the second biggest high school in all of Metro. It even had a pool. And then a brand new public library was built also right across the street. That intersection at Markham and Lawrence became the center of our world. And we walked everywhere because most of the dads would take the only car of the family and take it downtown. Most of the moms and the kids were left to walk everywhere. And we used to walk to Cedarbrae Plaza and Cedarbrae Heights. And my cousin and I would, in the summertime, we would walk to our swimming lessons at Cedarbrae Collegiate, and then we would go across the street to Cedarbrae Public Library, where the highlight of our day was to get the chocolate cream donut out of the vending machine. In the summertime, we would go down to the CNE, but there was a dedicated bus that came out to our neighborhood in Scarborough and that would take us directly down to the CNE. Perhaps because we all had moved into the community at the same time, but everybody knew each other. And the other thing was there were no fences in the backyards, and the houses were fairly close together. And even when fences did get built, they were just short little chain link fences that facilitated lots of conversation and socializing. We also had a little in-ground pool, and we hosted lots and lots of parties there. At that time, it became really important to have a rec room, and a wood-paneled rec room was the thing. But my parents couldn't afford to put in wood paneling, so my mother found some wallpaper that looked like wood paneling, and she very carefully pasted it over the concrete basement walls, and that became the place where we held birthday parties and New Year's Eve parties. It seemed in those days a lot of kids took piano lessons, and having a piano was very important. So my parents, who didn't really want to pay for a piano at that time, but they were so desperate to get a piano that they accepted a piano sight unseen from one of my father's customers at the bank that he managed at Queen and Spadina in downtown. But when the piano came to the house, it was one of those very tall, old, upright pianos, and of course it could not fit through the modern doorway of our little 1957 bungalow. So we had to leave the piano wedged in the doorway overnight, covered in tarps. And the next day, I don't know how she did it, but my mother arranged for someone to come and dismantle the piano on the outside of the house and then move all the pieces down to the basement rec room. Later on, I heard my parents talk about how the piano was probably maybe a stolen piano. So my mother painted it completely white, put teddy bear decals on it, and if it was a hot piano, it was forever disguised. One of the things my mother did not like was the name of our street, which was Hiscock Boulevard. And I can still remember her to this day, listening to her call in her orders to Simpsons or Eaton's and having to spell out the name of that street over and over again. So she and a couple of ladies in the neighborhood got together. I don't know if they ever did it, but they got together to try to have a petition to have the name of the street changed.